Okay, so on to the last page of 2.2 notes. And so really, the only difference that we're going to introduce here is dividing. And the only difference is that we're going to do a thing called, well, a little shortcut to this is called keep, change, flip. So you keep the first one the same, so you keep it the same. Then you're going to change the division to multiplication. So you're going to change division to multiplication, and then you have to flip um, the second fraction. It has to be the second one. It can't be the first one. Okay, so it's called keep. I'm sorry. Yes, keep, change, and then flip. So looking at this right here, um, I'm going to go ahead and keep the 12x to the power of 8 over 3y to the power of 4. Then I'm going to change this to multiplication. And then now the 6y goes up top, and the 16x to the third power goes on bottom. Okay, so that's going to be the only difference as we work down the page, is we're just going to do that little thing right there. And then now it's just time to reduce like we've done in the past. And so remember, I've got two separate fractions, but I can really kind of look at this as one fraction. That's fine with this stuff getting multiplied together, and we can start canceling stuff out. So let's see. So you'll notice right here the 12 and the 3. Let's see, so I could reduce that to a 4 and that to a 1. Okay. Then actually that 4, I could cancel that with the 16 that's left right there. So let's see, let's change to, so then that 4 will actually go away completely to, or well, reduce to a 1, and the 16 to a 4. So I'm going to go rewrite this. Even though there's more I can reduce as far as the variables, I want to kind of clean this up. So what I'm left with on top is, let's see, x to the 8th times 6y. So I'm going to go ahead and move the 6 to the front, then I'm going to put the x to the 8th, and then the y, all divided by. So that's all I did, was take these three parts right here and put the coefficient at the front, and then I put it in alphabetical order. And then let's see, on bottom, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and put the 4 right here. So I'm actually going to be able to, I'll be able to reduce that too a little bit more in a second. And then let's see, we got x to the 3rd and then y to the 4th. Okay, so then I can reduce this a little bit further. So looking at the numbers right here, those are both divisible by 2, so I'm going to be left with 3 over 2. Okay, and then looking at the x's right here, I can cancel these 3 with 3 of these. So I'll leave us with x to the power of 5. Okay, and then this y has an understood 1 right here. And so let's see, we'll change that to purple. So we'll cancel this out with one of those to where there's only a y to the 3rd power on bottom. And there you go. So really the only new part, you should know how to reduce and stuff, and it takes time. Just take your time. Do it in multiple steps if you need to. The difference we're going to see here is we have to change to the division to multiplication and then flip the second fraction, okay? All right, so let's do the rest of these. So right here, we're going to change that to multiplication, and I'm going to put parentheses around that stuff. So let's see. I'm going to go ahead. I might as well, so I don't have to rewrite this whole thing. I'm going to go ahead and factor out the 3 right there. So 3y, 3 parentheses y plus 5 all over y, and then it's going to change to multiplication. And then the second fraction, the 5 is going to pop to the top, and the y plus 5 is going to go to the bottom. And then once again, I can start canceling stuff out. Even though these fractions are separate, you can really, if you want to, you can connect them if you want. And so this is going to cancel with this. So those basically reduce to 1s. And then these y's also cancel out to 1s. So really all we're left with is 3 times 1 times 1. So I'm left with 3 over 1. And so we can actually just reduce that whole thing, just simplified down to a 3 right there. All right, so as we move forward, it's just more of the same. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in parentheses. So on top, once again, I might as well go ahead and factor now. So let's see, that'll be y plus 3, y minus 3, all over y. And then we're going to change that to multiplication. The y plus 2 pops to the top. and the y plus 3 goes to the bottom right here. And so then the y plus 3 cancels with the y plus 3 right here. So on top we're left with a y minus 3 times a y plus 2 divided by just y. And then don't try to cancel anything out. That's it. That's what we're left with. Okay. All right. So we're going to keep on keeping on. So we'll put parentheses around all this stuff. Okay, so a little side note here. This is the difference of two squares, but I kind of want to show a little bit more detail just to make sure nobody gets a little confused what happened here. So I'm rewriting this as the difference of two squares. So 2a quantity squared minus, and then 1 squared, still just 1, okay? So what that factors into is a 2a plus 1 and a 2a minus 1. So that's what that first part is right there, okay? And then all divided by, this is the difference of two squares also. That one's a little bit easier though because it doesn't have a number associated with the a squared. So that's just going to be a plus 2, a minus 2. And then we got to change the division to multiplication. And it doesn't look like, we just got to flip it, so it doesn't look like there's anything factorable there. So that, and then let's see, the 2a minus 1. So like I said, on most of these, they work out kind of ideally. Most of the stuff cancels out. So let's see, let's see, we got this 2a minus 1, 2a minus 1. Let's see, we've got the a minus 2, the a minus 2. So really, we're just left with that right there as our answer. So 2a plus 1 all over a plus 2. There you go. All right, so we just have a few left here. And so really it's just, we got to get that factoring down. Really, that's what part of this second unit's about, is it requires a lot of factoring. And some of it is useful that you'll use later on, but really the big part of this is just getting that factoring skill down. It just gives us a lot of practice. Okay, so this factors into x plus 4, x minus 4. Then on bottom, let's see, that's going to be x minus 5, x minus 5. So x minus 5, x minus 5. Okay, then it changes to multiplication. And then the top part, that factors into, well, I'm going to flip it, right? So let's see, that factors into an x minus 5 and an x plus 2. That looks good. And then this top part that becomes the bottom, we pull out a 3, and that'll leave us with an x minus 4. And then we'll just go through and start canceling stuff out. So let's see, x minus 4, x minus 4. Let's see, x minus 5, x minus 5. And I think that is going to be it. So what we're left with on top, doesn't matter what order you put them in. So I'll put the x plus 4, then the x plus 2. And then all divided by, let's see, x minus 5 times 3. It looks nicer if I put the 3 first. So I'm going to put the 3 first, and then the x minus 5. And there we go. All right, last one. Okay, so we're going to have to deal with one of those with the negative in front again. Not a big deal, but it'll be good to see another one of those, though. So I'm going to put all this stuff in parentheses. And so I'm going to have to start by factoring out a -1 here, and we'll just kind of deal with it as we work through the problem. So this first part right here factors pretty easily. Let's see, that should be x plus 7, x minus 2, not a big deal. On bottom, looks like we could pull out a 9, and that'll leave us with an x plus 8. That's right. So then we're going to change this to multiplication. And then on top, all right, so let's see. So, my pen is not working for me. Let's see. All right, sorry about that. Pen was freezing up on me. All right, so here what we're going to do is pull out that -1, and so that's going to show up on bottom because of the keep change flip. So we're going to be left with x squared plus 4x minus 21. So we'll factor that in a second. And then on top, let's see, we got a 3, and we can factor out, well, we factor out the 3, and we're left with x plus 8. So kind of like what we did on the last one, might as well cancel out some stuff we can um, before we rewrite it and have to factor a little bit further. So we'll notice that we can cancel these two parts out right here. And so what I'm left with on top, let's see, x plus 7, x minus 2. And I got that 3. I'm going to go ahead and throw that in the front. It just looks a little bit nicer to have it in the front. The 9 and -1, we can multiply that together as -9, and we'll reduce this in a second. I guess I could have done it up here, but anyways. And then now I'll go ahead and I'll color code this. What we'll do is we'll factor this right here. And so that should factor into, let's see, that's going to be x plus 7 and x minus 3. And so we'll go ahead and cancel out the x plus 7s. That was easy. And then the 3 and -9, we can reduce that to a 1 and that to a -3. Now, the 1, you don't really need to include it because it's kind of understood in front of that there's an understood 1 right there. So you don't need to put that there. So we just need to include the -3 parentheses x minus 3. And that looks good. And that'll be it. All right, so I hope that was helpful.